Remove your judgment. October 18, 2014. Greetings, dear ones. We are the High Council of Orion. There is much concern and there is much asking about the troubles in the world and on the planet, where human beings are behaving in many people's minds inappropriately to one another. Where you can see lots of evidence of what you would say is man's inhumanity to man. There are decisions being made by big companies and by governments that you would say are out of integrity and not respecting individuals or humanity as a whole. And the results of these decisions affect humans, they affect the planet, they affect governments and so much more. The blessing we would say of the time in which you live is the internet, which allows such quick and complete communication, yet it is always hard to get the complete picture and know absolutely the truth. For there is a lot of doubting in the world about anything that's received in terms of information. Which is wise, for as you know, perception is always filtered through that which is perceiving it, so there is no one person or organization who will accurately report anything. There may be a choice in what you prefer to have reported to you, but there is always a perception, a filter, and the bigger the business, the bigger the filter is in terms of the point of view that is put forth. With that being said, as one is on the planet receiving this information about many levels of difficult situations from a human perspective on the planet, and particularly in first world countries as you call it, where the world itself looks like survival is not in question, yet there are still many in these first world countries who are struggling to survive. Whether it's because of violence, whether it's because of poverty, whatever it might be, there are many who are suffering on that human level. And there are many in judgment about that level of suffering. And there are many who cry out to the High Council of Orion and others to ask for help, to just come in and save us from this. We've addressed this before in other channelings, but we're going to take it in a different way this time, for we wish each and every one of you to understand that peace does not prevail because somebody else finally stops doing one thing to another. Where you sit in your place of judgment about other people's actions and say, if only they would stop, then peace would prevail. When you look at it from a much higher level perspective, and understand really and truly that you live in a field of oneness, and begin to accept that the judgment of others creates a barrier to peace, as those actions of others are a barrier to peace as well. And you could say, well, no, I wish for peace and those other people in this other part of the world need to want the same thing I do, and understand that you are all part of one collective. And if you look at this one collective representing the many different ways that energy can project itself out into this dimension, you have a variety of experiences. What we would ask each and every one of you to do is to be in observation of the places that you're judging the rightness and wrongness, and the goodness and the badness of things happening from the point of view of, if they would only stop doing that, then the world would be peaceful. For we'll ask you to see what you can do to shift your perspective of this extreme level of judgment, for in the judgment you are creating barriers to the experience of oneness energetically in a similar way to those who are inflicting less than ideal energies on others. And while this is a challenging concept as you move forward on your ascension path and begin to really have experiences of oneness, you will begin to see that all of humanity is feeling those feelings, and there is no separation. For if it is happening to one, it is happening to the all. So your greatest contribution to that is you releasing the need to judge, and finding the place of peace and love within your own self that you can emanate out in whatever way you can, the best way you can, with love and compassion. Of course, setting boundaries that need to be set in your own world, but within that, instead of emanating judgment and anger and frustration, finding that place of peace within you has this enormous ripple effect out into all of humanity. For we would share with you that this play of light and dark will not be ending in any short period of time. Remember, what is dark needs to be brought to the light. So you could judge what is happening in terms of evidence that the world is getting worse. And we could also say you could celebrate the uplifting of the things that have been buried in the dark and in ignorance, to be brought out into the light. For things cannot shift and change until they've been brought out into the light. And as these things are brought out into the light, there is some upset and horror and disgust and humiliation and judgment around it. Yet the judgment doesn't change things, but the experience of finding that place of peace within your own life, and being able to connect with it and express it in your world, and share it with those in your world through your thoughts and your deeds and your actions and your energy. You begin to ripple that out to allow those changes to happen slowly but surely. It does not happen in an instant, but we also ask you to not underestimate the power of your individual place of peace and shifting the world around you, which by the same token shifts the entire world. We offer this channeling up this day not to bring people down or to cast blame in any way, shape or form, but we want you to feel enlivened and heartened by a way that you can positively contribute when there are things happening that are beyond your scope, beyond your control, bigger than you are, or more of a global problem. And trusting that the light will prevail, not going down the rabbit hole, and perhaps even turning off your TV and stop looking at the internet if it upsets you. And this is not to bring in ignorance, but this is to bring in peace as a sacred space and the greatest contribution that you can make. This is the place of power and empowerment and contribution that you can make to the goodness of the world. For as we've said before and will say again, as non-physical beings we are not allowed to come into your dimension and shift the reality. That is your job, to work your way through the reality in which you've chosen to be. However, we are here to offer up advice from our perspective that can help move you more easily and gracefully through this transition time. For you do have a place of empowerment and power within this if you know the light will prevail, and if you know your greatest contribution can be connecting in with inner peace and feeling that light within, and whatever way you do as one of your most important tasks and contributions at this time. Doesn't that lift your heart and give you that place that you can act from, not feeling victimized by the actions of the others on your planet at this time, who are expressing a different part of this reality drama? Play with peace, play with your point of personal power and see how it shifts your world. Be blessed. We are the High Council of Orion. Channeled by Holly Hawkins Marwood. Transcribed by Paul Marwood. www.akashahealingstudio.com